Hi everybody. Imagine a world without chocolate, where all chocolates, all sweets disappear from the world. And you might have been in the 16th century because at that time no sweet and no chocolate existed in the world right now, right at this very moment, until one day a group of Mayan workers discovered this first part of chocolate. So the Mayans discovered it by going into a Central American rainforest. This rainforest was covered in creepy crawly organisms like ants, plants, everything. But it grew one peculiar thing inside, a hidden treasure. There was a cacao bean, a cacao tree, There was a cacao tree that grew strange, bright pods. And the first ones to know about it were monkeys, because monkeys apparently like to break open the pods and suck up sweet, white juices and pulps that lie in the pods. Then they spat out the beans that were in the middle, the bitter beans that were in the middle. And then Mayan workers discovered those trees and pods, and one of them started mimicking the monkeys into swallowing up and sucking the sweet white juices inside the pods. Then he spat out the bean just like the monkey did. Now, as you could see, every one of the workers was spitting out and sucking up the beans and pulp. But it came to them. The most peculiar, exciting thing came and hit to them. A scent, a glorious smell came from a pile of rotting beans rotting beans. So over the months and years, they discovered a way to turn this scent into a living by making the beans into a drink. First, they had to collect the beans. First was collecting them from the trees, of course. And then they collected some banana leaves too, some wild banana leaves, so that they could leave the beans under there to rot for a few days. Then the next phase was to dry it out and heat it in the hot sun. Then the next phase was to make it go through a second phase of heating by roasting it over a big fire, a big bonfire. Then after this was complete, they crushed it. They literally crushed the beans into a fine paste. And then after all that, they mixed it with some water and some, actually it was hot water and some spices too, like some chilies and some, like, whatever kind of powder or spice you could find. And then, so they named their new drink Chocoha. But hey, it didn't taste great at all. It often tasted bitter. But hey, who are we to abuse the Mayans? Because we're not in the 16th century. Actually, the Mayans valued those cacao beans so much that Mayan kings and priests began to drink the juice every single day. And you know, those beans became so valuable to the Mayans, you could even use it as money. You could buy a rabbit for 10 beans and a slave for about 100 of them. But there was something else that was in the air other than this smell. Because chocolate wouldn't remain a Central American Mayan secret for long. And 100 years later, new people called the Montezuma. So when they came there, the Mayans revealed the secret of their precious cacao beans just to avoid trouble from the Aztecs. The Aztecs liked it, but they still forced the Mayans to give them all those, since it was at their time it was like too cold to grow them. The Mayans grew cacao beans just to avoid hunting in the forest for them, but in their time, in the Aztecs' times, it was too cold to grow them. So they had to request for these beans from the Mayans and carry them all the way home. So they started making those bitter drinks too. They liked it, but it was really bitter, like I told you. And then when they offered it to their emperor, and he was like astonished, and he was like amazed at this, and he said, "Hey, this is like really good stuff." And so he ordered like every single soldier of his to drink it before going into battle, and he was crazy about it. He was like crazy about it. Sometimes he ordered 50 cups a day from his workers, and he kept and even better, he kept the warehouses and every shop piled high with cacao beans, just so that he could have those 50 cups. And over time, a famous legend grew up of where chocolate first came from. Once upon a time, the world had no chocolate, began the Aztecian storytellers. But then Quetzalcoatl, a god of farming, came dropped from paradise with a cocoa tree. Quetzalcoatl was the Aztecs' hero, because they thought he had bring chocolate to the world, but in real life it was like the Mayans. So do you know that they built him great big temples and gave him like chocolate as a drink, the chocolate, remember? They gave him chocolate as a drink. But like I said before, chocolate is not a Central American secret now. Others had their eyes on the Aztecs and Mayans. In the 15th, so you see, at the time, a Spanish explorer named Hernan Cortez set out with an army to fight the Aztecs. So the Aztecs, however, this guy, he was an explorer, and he set off with an army to fight the Aztecs. After many great battles of the Spanish and the Aztecs and Mayans, Emperor Montezuma wanted to make peace with him. So he called him to court one fateful day, and he offered him his first taste of chocolate. And he said it tasted like delicious a little bit, but rather bitter. He liked the chocolate, yes, but who would stop him from conquering the Aztecs? And in 1528, when Cortez was sailing home, he offered some of the chocolate to his friends. When Cortez was sailing home, he offered some chocolate to his friends. And you know, this chocolate, they decided that it was better hot and with lots of chocolate. And you see, this was only made in drinking form. And you know, soon after that, a great prince named Prince Philip, the ruler of Spain at that this drink. He ordered monks and visitors like Mayans from Central America to come, and he ordered them to bring him a hot chocolate drink. And it was sweet because apparently the Spanish Hernan's friends had added sugar onto them, and he was hooked with it. You bet he was, because soon after that, everyone was talking about it, talking smack about chocolate. And you know, people were talking about it even long before they'd seen any potato in the world, you know. They were talking about it long before they'd seen potato, and it was a smack hit. But there was one big cost for all of this. Have I ever told you that chocolate was kind of expensive at that time, because grinding beans into the paste and roasting them out in the sun for hours and roasting them and stuff like that took days. Took a few days to prepare. Thus, it was very expensive. They had low supply of it, and then the demand rose up. So yeah, this was before the invention of steam engines. This is before the invention of steam engines. You see, before these inventions, the machinery inventions, nothing was easy to make. Not even chocolate was. But after someone designed these steam engines, a lot of dishes, a lot of things like trains and machinery and cars could be made real easily. And that was all. The dishes included chocolate, and chocolate somehow stopped being a drink for just the rich. Even a $10 would buy it, but yeah, chocolate stopped being so expensive and high price. And sometime later, a chocolate drink maker called Francis Fry. Francis Fry was the one who encountered the world's first chocolate bar. But before I can tell you that story, I need you to listen. So Francis was a chocolate maker that thought that these drinks were just boring, and you know, he thought that there was only one thing better, and that was eating. That was eating real bars of chocolate, realistic bars of chocolate. So he took some. And one of his friends provided half of the answer. He invented a machine that separated chocolate into yellowish cocoa butter and brownish cocoa powder. So here's what's the amazing part, that Francis Fry noticed that this cocoa butter chocolate was made of hardened. It hardened as it cooled off. And he thought that maybe this was his chance of making the first elegant chocolate bar. So here's the story. So first, he mixed warm chocolate mix into some cocoa butter, and then he added 3 scoops of sugar onto the chocolate mix to top it. And to top it, he had bar molds at home, and so he put them in the bar mold and then put them in the refrigerator and waited. Slowly but surely, it cooled down, revealing the world's first chocolate. And so, in no time after this, sometime after this, factories were steaming, puffing, and like turning, whirling. You can think about it, but they were like making delicious chocolate bars that are sold all around the world today. Peter was having a struggle because his candles were going out of fashion. His wax candles were going out of fashion because of the invention of lights, the invention of electricity. His candles were kind of going out of fashion and people rarely bought them. So, yeah, that was a dramatic dip in money. He was losing it, totally. So, when he fell in love with the chocolate maker's beautiful daughter, he had a great, marvelous idea. He thought that he would make chocolate instead. Well, that wouldn't be that easy because there was already a lot of chocolates in this world that he would have to make his bar very special. Yes, he did do the same recipe as Francis Fry did, but before he put that in the bar molds and put them in the freezer, he started adding some milk, some powdered milk and some milk, but that was with one cost. It made the mixture a little bit too runny. It was a little bit too runny. So, but luckily one of his friends named Henry Nesto lived next door and he knew a lot about food. Nesto apparently earned his living by making baby food. He raised babies and made baby food for them. So yeah, he knew a lot about food because he had more experience. So he soon found a way to thicken Daniel's mix. And soon Daniel, Peter, and Henry Nesto together received an award for the chocolate that they had made. And it was called milk chocolate. So this particular glossening chocolate was a hit. An instant hit in the government and every state. So today we found ways to make milk chocolate creamier, smoother, and even more tasty. We still use those same methods today. And so the first phase is rolling the chocolate into immense rollers to squeeze out every single lump. And then an enormous blender vat invented by Rudolf Lindt was used to grind and blend the chocolate into a nice curdy mix, a nice creamy mix. And then in the third phase, it was cooled, warmed until the milk chocolate paste had a glossy shine. And so, yeah, and then it was put through the bar, and then it was put in molds and left in coolers to cool up. For years, this chocolate was only made in bars, but one American chocolate maker thought bars were kind of old-fashioned and boring. So he started making peaks. He started molding the chocolate in some peak molds. When these peak chocolates hardened, he pulled them out and tasted it. And you know that same year that he invented this shaped chocolate and the shaped chocolate molds in total, that same year a Belgian chocolate maker named Jan Nahas was making another marvelous idea, and that was making hard chocolate holders that could hold soft fillings inside of them. And then once that was done, he covered it with even more chocolate layers, more layers of chocolate. So yeah, in total there was no stopping chocolate makers. Now chocolate maker made a leap in chocolate history. And yes, he made a leap because he had invented a Goo Goo cluster. That was the second challenge of chocolate, mixing the chocolate with other scrumptious ingredients. And this specific chocolate maker mixed some peanuts and caramel and chocolate bubbles into his chocolate. And so these bubbles and caramel and like whatever he had added hardened, and he took his first bite and he said, that's delicious and like gooey and sticky. So he named that's where the Goo Goo cluster name came from. And it was like an instant hit, just like all the other chocolates out there. And then sometime later, many generations later, Frank and Ethel, these two people named Frank and Ethel Mars, the Mars family, they earned their living by selling some creamed cookies, some homemade cream chip cookies. And this poverty that they were going through, this struggle that they were going through ended, and their big break came when Mars invented a new multi-chocolate bar. So first he molded some dough into a fluffy and soft nougat. Then he topped it with some caramel, and then he topped it with a little bit of like chocolate. Then he put it in the freezer and waited. So slowly the chocolate on it and the caramel on it hardened up, and he had created this malted bar. So it was an instant hit. So then their son Forrest developed an even tastier, scrumptious chocolate recipe. Some sugar-coated chocolates that wouldn't melt in your hand. And you know, since a person named Bruce Murray gave them some money for their project, they decided to name the project M&M's. The Marges decided to name the project M&M's because of the way it came. Because Bruce Murray and the Marges began with M, so yeah, the M&M's were a particular name. And yeah, you can buy all of this chocolate all over the world. A little bit of the world's population is kind of chocolate, like gigantic factories of it, but some of it was not, most of it is just not more than just a regular shop of chocolate like that. And so yeah, some of the chocolate factories are not really like gigantic. Most of them are like small chocolate companies that sell things on the street and sell chocolates, and yeah, you can think about it. And from then on, there were no stopping chocolate makers then because sticky toffee or like chewy caramel, you name it, they added all of it. They made chocolates in different shapes, sizes, whatever you can think of. They made all of it. They made all chocolates. And now you can buy M&M's all over the world. You can buy these sugar-coated chocolate drops all over the world. And you know, they wouldn't melt at a single touch like real chocolate bars did. Nope. They were kind of like cool. They were cool. If you imagine a world without chocolate, then you're lucky. In your dreams, if you imagine a world without chocolate, then you'd better know when you eat your first M&M that not everything about chocolate is sweet and crunchy.